So if you were here on Good Friday at Jesus' funeral, we heard from Mary, and we've already heard from Mary today how different she is after the events of this weekend. We also heard from Peter, one of Jesus' close friends, and Nicodemus. Well, both Peter and Nicodemus now have opportunity to come and share a little bit about their story, both slightly differently. We're going to first hear from Peter as he just sort of chats with us about some of the things he's experienced over these last few days. And then Nicodemus, it's a slightly different scenario.
Thanks, Pastor Mark. I'll just put my gear down here, if that's all right. Yeah, look, I was only here a few days ago. It's been the strangest few days of my life, actually. After Friday, I was really confused, didn't know what to do, couldn't sleep. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to do anything. It was really horrible, actually. So I did the one thing I knew best, the one thing that I loved doing. I went fishing. After a couple of days of struggling, I took my closest friends and those who understand me and who also had their own struggles, and we headed out fishing. Geez, it was good to be back on the boat, back on the water. As the sun set and the wind died down and the nets went out, I felt like I was home again. The serenity, the gentle but constant activity, the rush of adrenaline when the nets get full, it was all what I needed to still my thoughts and to deal with my grief and my guilt. I couldn't believe my friend Jesus was gone. This larger-than-life character, dead. At least that's how it was on Friday, but then on Sunday I go to his tomb and it's empty. And then later he turns up where we were all hanging out and we see him. What do you do when that sort of thing happens? What do you do? Well, I guess you wouldn't know, and I certainly didn't know. It had never actually happened before. Somebody coming back to life, like that's kind of the point. A dead person coming back to life, what do you do? Now, I don't know if it was just my grief or my guilt. Perhaps it was all just in my head. But sitting out on that boat, I wasn't so sure. How could it be? And given how bad I felt the last few hours, when he needed me the most, I let him down. I denied him, denying having anything to do with him. How could I do that? He was my friend. He was the most significant person in my life. He had completely changed me. It's no wonder I imagined him coming back. So there I was out on the lake fishing. Time passed slowly, but it was good to be there. Good to be there with my friends, to catch my breath and try and make sense of everything that had just happened. If only there were some fish, that'd be even better. After a long night, weary with interaction, drowsy from sleep, but refreshed from being out in the water, we were just thinking about heading back, empty-handed. When this character appears on the beach, "Throw your nets out on the other side," he yelled. "I know there are fish there." He said, "Go on, give it a try. What have you got to lose?" And we thought he was mad. In fact, it was embarrassing that some stranger from the shore would dare suggest to us, seasoned professional fishermen, who'd caught nothing, by the way, who had been out all night, where to cast the nets. Well, perhaps because we were too tired to even argue, we thought, why not? So we did. We gave it a shot. And what happened next was unbelievable. The net filled immediately, and we tried to haul in the catch, but we just couldn't. It was too heavy. All my mates stepped up to help, but by the time I realised who the stranger was, he wasn't a stranger at all. It was Jesus, my friend. The one who died. No. Who's alive. It was my Lord. So I did the only logical thing. I went straight to him. Thing is, I'm in a boat. Never mind, I didn't care. I just had to touch him. I just had to be with him. I just had to speak to him. So when I got to shore, now cold and wet, Jesus was still waiting, waiting by a roaring fire. He had a few fish already cooking on that fire. I don't know where he got them from, but he's God. And I didn't care really at that point in time. I just ran to him and I greeted him and I hugged him and I sat next to him. Didn't take long for the others to join us. And by now I had calmed down a little bit. So I helped them bring in this huge haul of big fish, bringing some to Jesus so that we had enough breakfast for all. It was just so good to be with him again. Although, to be honest, it was a little awkward. We all had a lot of questions. We just didn't know where to start. After he broke bread and served the fish, he turned his attention to me. Looking directly at me and ignoring what all the others were doing, he faced me as if he was looking directly into my soul. And after a moment he spoke. Called me by my birth name, my old name. He said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" What a question. First I was speechless. I know, hard to believe. But at first I was speechless. It was so pointed. And as such, it triggered emotion in me. The last time this sort of thing happened was at the Passover meal when he predicted I was going to deny him, and he was right. He asked me the question, do I love him? How much do I love him? More than what? More than the other disciples? More than I love fishing? Do I love him at all? All going on in my mind. It was such a surreal moment. I actually had no idea how to respond. What was true? As I searched my heart and mind, I remembered how I felt when he first singled me out and called me to follow him. I thought about those times when I had seen him do such incredible things. Healing the sick, casting out demons, raising the dead, calming storms, events which blew my mind. That helped me understand that this man was God's special messenger. But none of that compared to the time I was up on the mountain with him when his appearance changed and we heard the heavens speak and God declare that Jesus was the Son of God. This, the greatest, most significant, profound day of my life. This day I knew that he was the Christ, God's appointed messenger, the one who had come to set all things right. And yet I still didn't get it. When he talked about dying, I protested. I mean, how could he, if he was God's Messiah, die? But then he accused me of being in cohort with the devil. And then when he was eventually taken off to be crucified, I let him down. I denied associated being with him and I even denied knowing him. The guilt of this weighed really heavily. It actually dominated my feelings for a long time. Do I love him? If you look at what I did and my actions and behaviour, that'd probably be a no. If you ask me what I thought, it would have to be I don't know. And yet, even before I had time to process all that was going on within, I simply blurted out, "Of course I love you." And you know that I love you, and I love you, and I love you, Jesus. And even as he then went on to dig further and deeper, this was still true. It was definitely true. I love him. I love him with my whole being. I love him completely. I love him because he first loved me. Sightlines, folks.
Change of scene. You now got to imagine that I'm the president of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish ruling party. And Nicodemus, one of our members, has been discrediting us. So we've brought him in to find out what's going on, to give him a trial. So if I could invite the fellow members of my Sanhedrin up to come and join me here, and Nicodemus, if you'd like to come, we've got a few questions for you. Come and stand here, gentlemen. Nicodemus, please. Thanks for coming. I know it's short notice. Please take a seat. Now, have you any idea why we've called you here today before the Sanhedrin?
No, not really. But perhaps it's something to do with the events of the weekend?
Well, partly. That's certainly something we're going to need to discuss, isn't it? It's been a big weekend. What are we going to do with those rumours that had this man we crucified is now alive? That he's come back from the dead? We'll certainly have to come up with some plan to make sure that this nonsense doesn't get out. Spread outside of Jerusalem. We don't want that to happen. We wouldn't want such a ridiculous belief getting out. Not that, of course, anyone would believe it, would they? Yeah, how could they? Not a chance, no. Anyway, but I think, Nicodemus, we're going to have to sort that out without you. In fact, I think we're going to need to. So if you don't mind me reading this next bit, because it's important I get it right. Do you want to just rotate your chair a little bit so you're not back to the... Thank you. That's fine. That's fine. I'm going to have to read this so I get it right, because I'm speaking on behalf of us all. Nicodemus, you are here because we are concerned about some of your actions that have been reported to us. We've heard of a number of people suggesting that you had sympathies for this man, Jesus. You perhaps had even become one of his followers. There are reports that you financially supported those preparing his body for burial, and that you've been hanging out with his friends since his death. And we can't help but think about that comment that you made. Remember that comment, guys? I'm sure you do. When we were talking about how to minimise the threat that he was to our Jewish way of life, it was almost as if you were defending him. Shame on you. And then was the report you gave us from your visit with him when he first started getting out and about. Yeah, I know we sent you, but Nicodemus, I'm not sure going at night was a good idea. We're reliably informed that rather than finding out what he was teaching and warning him to watch his step, he almost had you convinced and that you joined his number. So, Nicodemus, we've called you here today to explain yourself, to give you opportunity to tell us why we shouldn't have you expelled from this Sanhedrin because of your sympathies towards this Galilean rebel-rouser. So, Nicodemus, what have you got to say for yourself?
Right. Well, I guess you should have expected this, shouldn't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, well, I didn't expect it quite so soon.
Don't know why not.
I guess I'm still trying to work things out in my own mind. Make sense of it all. Do you mind if I start from the beginning?
Yeah, come on.
Well, that night you mentioned...
The one we sent you to see Jesus? Yeah. Oh, I went off script.
It was certainly not what I expected. He wasn't what I expected. I expected some firebrand radical a fanatical revolutionary. He was nothing like that. He was calm, thoughtful. He knew the law, listened carefully, deeply to my questions.
What's he saying? What's he saying? What's he saying?
Well, I think he understood my questions better than I did. He certainly knows our law and clearly respects it. He loves it, quoted it regularly. And what he said seemed consistent with what it teaches. Except he seemed to understand it better than anyone I have ever met.
How can that? Oh, he's uneducated. Come on.
It was as if he knew the authors personally.
What? Hey, now, excuse me. That's not good. Careful, Nicodemus. You're flying a bit close to the wind there. Last thing we want you is that we'd have to stone you for blasphemy.
Anyway, Jesus said some things which seemed to make such sense of what we all know so well. But, well, it was just so different. To be honest, I really didn't know what to think. But I certainly couldn't just dismiss him as a heretic or a crazy man. But I think I told you this time, didn't I?
You have gone in cohorts with him.
Anyway, after that encounter, I couldn't get who he was, what he said, out of my mind. But I think I told you this at the time, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I remember. We were a bit worried, but we wanted to trust you.
Anyway, after that encounter, I couldn't get who he was. It out of my mind. I've already said that, sorry.
This is why we got you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Confused, obviously. Yeah.
But this was the reason why I started following him.
Oh.
Whenever he was in town, I would join the crowds
we
to
saw
hear him
that.
speak.
Yeah, we saw
It was
that.
incredible.
Oh, God, yeah.
The authority with which he spoke, people could not but listen, take notice, be impressed. But there was what he did.
Yeah?
Come on, tell us.
Yeah, come on. Convince us.
Come on.
Now, I know you have heard the stories,
Yeah, we've
but
heard
I've
them,
seen
we've
it.
heard them.
Healing, crippled hands, leprosy, paralytics, blind, you name it, made well by this
Yeah, we
man.
heard about that, yeah.
Simply at a word, but often by a touch. Sometimes he did it. When he did it, it made me rather uncomfortable, like when he healed on the
Well,
Sabbath.
rightly so. Shouldn't be.
He
Has
did
he read
this
the law?
without even thinking about the consequences.
Yeah.
But I guess when they were healed, I came back to life.
What?
Hello?
Yeah.
I guess technically he hadn't done anything which would make him unclean.
That's ridiculous.
All of this resulted in
talking
there
about?
being this energy about him. Crowds flocked to him. I found I just couldn't stay away. Every time I saw him, heard him, got near him, there was this warmth inside me, a stirring in my
Oh,
spirit.
he's gone. He's gone. Yeah, it's just madness. Come on. Oh.
This was the reason why I stood up for him before. This is why I argued that he should be given a fair trial before anything was done. Not that what I did made any difference. I only wish I had been braver. I should have protested more forcefully. Perhaps you wouldn't have killed him then.
Whoa. Yeah. Terrible. This is, I think our mind's made up, gentlemen. Yeah.
Still, I guess if that had happened, I wouldn't be here today, knowing what I know now. seeing what I have just seen.
Excuse me? What do you mean by that?
Well, as you know, you had him crucified.
Absolutely.
And
He
then
deserved
you-
it. Yeah.
And then you were right. I helped Joseph take the body down, prepare
You
for
are?
burial,
Become one of his.
put it in the tomb.
Oh.
It was the least I could do.
He's judged guilty by his
I
own
saw the
words.
stone rolled in front, and I was there when they sealed the stone. And a guard placed it in front to make sure his body wasn't tampered with.
Yeah, so it should have been. Yeah.
And at that moment, I thought it was all over. Sure, I was confused, I was upset. But more importantly, I was disillusioned. As a Pharisee, I had become aware how my knowledge and faithfulness to God's law had got in the way of me knowing
That's
God.
how you know God. Come on, it's about what you know. Surely, yeah.
But as someone who had followed Jesus, got to know him, seen what he did, and heard what he said, I had begun to believe that perhaps he was the Messiah.
Oh, what?
God's chosen one.
No! Blasphemer!
Let me explain. Let me finish.
Do we let him?
But now he was
Said
dead.
enough.
I had been crucified. I knew it couldn't be true. I had been mistaken,
Yeah,
was
no,
wrong.
He's seen sense. Okay. So, yeah, dead and buried. It's the end.
But that was the Friday
What?
evening.
What?
Today I know differently. I am now absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt convinced that Jesus of Nazareth
Oh,
is the
no.
Christ,
No. That's
God
right.
anointed
Back to it,
messenger.
back to it.
In
Out,
fact,
out.
God's
Cast him
Son.
Yes, cast him out.
And how can I say this? Because he is alive. I have
What?
met with him,
What?
spoken with him,
He has
eaten
lost
with
it.
him.
He's just
He is
lost
very
it.
much
He's no
alive.
longer
He
one
has
of us.
defeated
No.
death and in
Not
so
as
has
anybody
proven
else.
who he is.
No.
He is God's Son,
What?
King of kings and Lord of lords,
No.
Creator of the universe, and victorious, conqueror over all things, even
Blasphemer!
death.
Blasphemer! Cast him out. He's God. He's none of us. We have nothing to do with this man. Turn your back to him. Yeah. Back to him. Back to him. It's one of us. Lost him. Have you finished?
Now that I know Jesus is King, there is nothing else to do but to follow him. It is the only thing to do. I don't care if that means being kicked out of the Sanhedrin, or even if they decide to stone me. What matters is that now he is alive. I must follow him. What about you? Now that Jesus is alive, what will you do? How will you respond to Jesus?
It is indeed a profound thing, isn't it? Now that Jesus is alive, he is King. How will you respond to him? Let me pray. Father, as we've heard the stories of those three characters that encountered Jesus and were transformed by meeting him and then by discovering that he'd conquered death, we've just got a window into the difference it makes. And you come to us as the risen Lord Jesus, inviting us to know you too. To allow you to transform our lives. Whether that's to bring healing and wholeness like it did for Mary, or whether it's to give forgiveness from guilt as it did for Peter, or whether it meant counting the cost as it did for Nicodemus. It's worth it. In fact, it's the only sensible thing to do because you, Jesus, are alive. You've conquered death. You are King, Lord. One day you'll be back to put all things right. So we celebrate your resurrection today, King Jesus, and we thank you for your transforming power in our lives. May we live in the reality of this from this day forward and forever. Amen. If you've never responded